Picture this. It's a dark, stormy night by a Swiss lake back in the year 1816. A group of friends are trapped indoors by just this relentless rain, so they start telling ghost stories by the fire. And out of that gloom, a brilliant young woman, who is just 18 years old by the way, conceives a tale that is literally going to haunt humanity for centuries. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're opening up the pages of Mary Shelley's absolute masterpiece, Frankenstein. We're going to strip away all those pop culture myths and look directly at the source material to reveal a really profound cinematic tragedy about ambition, isolation, and the terrifying costs of creation. Okay, let's dive into this by shattering a massive misconception right out of the gate. When you hear the name Frankenstein, you probably picture this lumbering, green, mute zombie with bolts in his neck, right? But Mary Shelley's actual creation is radically different. The creature in the novel is hyper-intelligent, incredibly articulate, and deeply, agonizingly emotional. I mean, he literally teaches himself to read by poring over classic literature in the woods, and he debates high-level philosophy with his creator. Understanding this stark contrast is absolutely crucial to unlocking the true tragedy of the book, because it's not a story about a mindless beast, it's a story about a profoundly complex, abandoned being. So let's move into Section 1, the Modern Prometheus, Ambition and Moral Failure. We'll use this as our first dark chapter marker, to examine exactly what drove a promising young scientist named Victor Frankenstein to commit the ultimate transgression. To really understand Victor, you've got to look at the full title of Mary Shelley's novel. It's actually called Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus. Now, you might remember Prometheus from Greek mythology. He was the titan who stole fire from the gods to give to humanity. And for overstepping those mortal boundaries, he suffered this eternal, agonizing punishment. Well, Victor Frankenstein acts as our modern Prometheus. He isn't stealing fire, though. He's trying to steal the divine, forbidden power of creating life itself out of dead matter. And just like that ancient myth, his ambition demands a terrifying price. And this brilliantly illustrates Victor's initial mindset. Just listen to this quote from the text. "Life and death appeared to me ideal bounds, which I should first break through, and pour a torrent of light into our dark world." It sounds almost noble at first, doesn't it? But if you look closer, this isn't just scientific curiosity. This is a raging God complex. Victor isn't out here trying to cure a disease. He literally wants a brand new species to bless him as its creator. He is completely blinded by the glory of the discovery, entirely ignoring the moral weight of what he's actually doing.
Which brings us to Section 2, the tragedy of abandonment. The creator flees. We are fast-forwarding to a dreary night in November, the culmination of 2 years of obsessive, filthy labor in a makeshift laboratory. And this is where the tone of our story shifts violently from scientific ambition to sheer horror.
The second the creature's dull yellow eye opens and it draws its first hard breath, we are forced to ask a really devastating question. What is the cost of creation without care? As we look at the events that unfold here, I want you to continually challenge yourself with this thought. Who, ultimately, is the real monster in this story? Is it the one who was created or the one who created him? Well, the answer begins to form immediately with Victor's reaction. He writes, "Now that I had finished, the beauty of the dream vanished, and breathless horror and disgust filled my heart. I escaped and rushed downstairs." Just think about the sheer cowardice of this moment. Victor spent 2 agonizing years stitching together human remains, dreaming of all this glory. But the second this living, breathing being reaches out to him, Victor just runs away. He abandons his creation to the world, utterly alone, simply because the reality of its physical ugliness repulses him.
And that takes us to Section 3, From Innocence to Fiend, the creature's descent. To truly grasp the heartbreak of this abandonment, Mary Shelley brilliantly shifts the narrative perspective. We finally stop hearing from Victor, and we get to listen to the creature himself.
The creature's emotional evolution is incredibly clear, and honestly, it's just heartbreaking. He doesn't wake up evil. At first, he awakens innocent, confused, and vulnerable, basically like a giant infant. Then, hiding near a cottage, he secretly observes a human family. He's teaching himself language, history, and deep empathy. He just desperately longs for connection. But when he finally reveals himself, hoping his gentle nature is going to overcome his terrifying appearance, he is brutally attacked and rejected. And so, forged in the fires of absolute isolation and human prejudice, his heartbreak curdles into a vow of eternal, violent revenge against his creator.
When the creature finally confronts Victor out on a desolate glacier, he delivers some of the most stunning prose in all of English literature. He says, "I ought to be thy Adam, but I am rather the fallen angel, whom thou drivest from joy for no misdeed." The creature understands his own tragedy perfectly. He knows he was supposed to be the first of a new kind, cherished by his maker. Instead, he's been cast into this agonizing exile, punished not for anything he actually did, but simply for how he looks and what he is. He summarizes his entire existence in this single, piercing sentence. I was benevolent and good. Misery made me a fiend. The core tragedy here is that the monster was not born, he was made. Yes, he was manufactured by Victor's tools, but his monstrous nature? That was entirely forged by society's prejudice and his creator's catastrophic negligence.
Let's look at Section 4, the cost of creation, a cycle of revenge. The creature makes one final, desperate demand of Victor. He says, create a female companion for me, someone as deformed as I am, so I won't be alone. And he promises to vanish into the wilderness forever. But Victor, terrified of breeding a whole race of monsters, destroys the half-finished female. And from that exact moment, the cycle of revenge becomes absolute. We start to see their fates become inextricably, darkly linked. Victor Frankenstein becomes completely consumed by regret. Because he broke his promise, the creature systematically murders everyone Victor loves, his little brother, his best friend, his bride. Meanwhile, the creature, entirely consumed by revenge, achieves his goal but is left utterly alone, just drowning in self-loathing. By the end of the novel, creator and creation are these mirror images of absolute misery, chasing each other across the frozen ice of the Arctic, having destroyed one another completely. So, the crucial point is this chilling threat delivered by the creature right after Victor destroys his only hope for a companion. He says, I will be with you on your wedding night. Now, Victor, completely blinded by his own massive ego, assumes the creature intends to kill him. But no. Instead, the creature murders Victor's new wife, Elizabeth. It's the ultimate, horrific balancing of the scales. Victor denied the creature a mate, so the creature denies Victor his.
Let's pause for a second and just pull back to look at the overarching architecture of this story. These major themes are what elevate this from a simple 19th century ghost story into a timeless masterpiece. It's a profound exploration of creation versus responsibility. It's a heartbreaking look at deep isolation and loneliness. It examines revenge fueled by superficial prejudice, and critically, it questions science versus nature and the absolute limits of human control over the forces we dare to unleash. Which brings us to Section 5. Frankenstein in the AI era, a modern warning. Let's bring this gothic horror right out of the 1800s and directly into our present day. Because honestly, the anxieties Mary Shelley captured, they are more relevant now than ever before. Let's look at how this directly translates to our modern world. Because we are still stealing fire today. Only now our modern Prometheus isn't stitching together grave-robbed parts. Instead, they're working in artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and genetic engineering. It is incredibly easy to look at Victor Frankenstein, a young guy who moves fast, breaks things, and becomes obsessed with what he can do without ever stopping to ask if he should, and see the ultimate prototype of a reckless Silicon Valley tech visionary who completely ignores the catastrophic consequences of their inventions.
As Victor lies dying in the freezing Arctic wastes, his life completely destroyed by his own unmanaged ambition, he offers this warning to the sea captain who rescues him. Learn from me how dangerous is the acquirement of knowledge and how much happier that man is who believes his native town to be the world. It is the ultimate cautionary tale. It's pleading with us to recognize our ethical obligations to the things we create, especially right now as our technological powers advance at such a terrifying speed. Which leaves us with this final, really provocative thought to take away from this explainer. Right now, humanity is standing on the precipice of creating artificial minds and altering the very code of life itself. As we build these new entities, as we bring them into our world and shape their existence, are we going to take responsibility for them? Or, when the reality of our ambition stares back at us, will we just run away in horror? As we build new minds, will we be better creators than Victor Frankenstein? Thank you so much for exploring this brilliant, haunting source material with me today. Definitely go read the book. I promise you it will completely change how you view the future.